Hello, my name is Maya, aka Shameless Maya, and I had a home birth.
Hi, my name's Shambudram, and I had a hospital birth. Hello there, lovers and friends. So this video is a quick compare and contrast between a home birth and a hospital birth from two individuals who both had positive experiences with their labor. Hopefully what this video becomes is the comment section will be the starring role, because you can't base your decision off of two individual people, because as you will hopefully read, there are a million different scenarios and experiences that people have had. So do your research, read, listen, be curious, ask tons of questions of those around you, and furthermore, to the healthcare practitioners in your life to make the best decision for yourself, which I would say that I did, and Maya would definitely say that she did, and that's why I wanted to share this.
I don't know. I think it's beautiful to celebrate life in your home where you're safe. And truth be told, I also live on the countryside, so the idea of driving to a hospital that's an hour away seemed a bit ridiculous to me.
The real truth is I never considered anything else. Both of my parents work in healthcare. My dad's a paramedic and my mom was a labor and delivery nurse for 10 years. My sister had her kids in a hospital. My mom had her kids. Her mom had her kids. My cousins had their kids. I did have an aunt who had a home birth and was very successful. And nonetheless, it was just a natural decision for me just because of my family.
How did I prepare for a home birth? Ooh. If you're going to do a home birth, you have to over prepare. I read 4 or 5 books on home birthing. I watched documentaries, Orgasmic Birth, and on Instagram I followed accounts that had a lot of home births. I was also following the hashtag free birthing, and that's when a woman really decides to go all in and do it all on her own. I didn't want to do that, but I wanted to get inspired by the confidence and the fierceness that these women had. Lots of preparation. You cannot wing it. You can't think to yourself, oh, this is natural, I'm going to do it naturally. You have to reprogram and unprogram a lot of things that have been taught throughout society, because when those contractions hit, child, you go into another world, and you have to have the tools to not be afraid and focus.
What did I do to prepare for my hospital birth? This is the embarrassing part of my story, in that because my mom has so much experience with hospital births, my dad has delivered babies, my mom has delivered umpteen babies, I just knew that they had seen all the various things that could happen, and as a result, I didn't feel like I had to personally do preparation and personally research. I just knew that I had people in my corner who loved me very deeply and who knew the system and who knew what could go right, what could go wrong, what my options were. So I really just relied on their expertise. I will say that this led to an issue, for lack of a better term, but in essence, I gave birth during the pandemic, and it was November 2020, and you were only allowed to bring one person. So all leading up to the birth of my daughter, I was adamant that I wanted my mom there, because neither Jared nor I had done our research, and I just felt very comfortable with somebody who I know could advocate for my needs and who I know, again, knew the system and knew what I wanted more than anything else. And what I wanted more than anything else was to have a vaginal delivery, if at all possible. So I was very clear I wanted my mom, but in essence, towards the end of our pregnancy, specifically the baby shower, Jared's parents, for lack of a better term, kind of ambushed my mom and was like, I really think it should be Jared in there. And then we started to have more enhanced conversations about that. And that became a pain point for me, because I was like, I haven't done my own research, and I've been relying on my mom. This is all that I know. And if she's not there, then like, what is that going to mean? And so I obviously really wanted my husband there, and I thought it'd be a beautiful moment for us. And I believed all those things. But during the pandemic, you can only pick one person. So My mom did not end up being the person there, but that's where FaceTime really comes in handy. And we called her all the time, and she made herself available, and she spoke with the doctors and the nurses, which there were several because we were in the hospital for about 48 hours. But it ended up working out. But I will say that if I had done my own research, I think I would have felt more confident not having my mom by my side.
I had a hospital bag packed in the event I had to go. I did have midwives and doulas, and two midwives and a doula. The midwives had everything. They had pain relief, they had first aid kits, they had everything necessary for myself and Saga if anything were to happen. But I had my hospital bag, and I had a hospital letter and a doula that was going to help me enforce those requests.
Again, I didn't do a lot of preparation, so maybe I was 10 days late, so I think a week before my birth, I was like, shouldn't I start to buy stuff? I already had it in my mind that I was going to have a late delivery because my mom and my sister, that was their experience, and my mom was just the way she was seeing how much my belly had descended, and she was staying with me at the time, so she kept saying to me, you're not ready, you're not ready. So I think that I was also delaying the hospital bag thing. But about a week before my due date, I started to think and look online, and so I ended up buying, I think it's called Frida, I'll try to link it, some kind of hospital pack thing that people said that they really needed. I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't end up using anything in that. The hospital really had a lot of the aftercare needs that I required. The only thing that I am grateful that I packed in my bag is my own juices. Because of COVID, you can't leave and you can't order in food. So we got freshly squeezed juices, and that was really nice to have throughout. The one thing I wish I did was make a playlist. I had a fine delivery and it was easy enough, but I didn't have a luxurious, completely me delivery because I didn't prepare for that. But for anybody who's panicking about what should I buy? What do I get? They even have diapers there for you, and they have a swaddling thing for the baby, and they have a lot. So ask your doctor about what's provided. You might be surprised. It doesn't have to be this big expensive thing.
For my home birth, we didn't buy anything, but our midwife had a birthing pool. I didn't think I want to have a water birth, but they did highly recommend it for pain relief because the warm water will alleviate pain. So we had that, and she rented it. I had access to my shower, and that's where I actually went and put the hot water really hot and on my back to help alleviate the pain. But I didn't buy anything. How long was I in labor? I don't know. So let's say I started having contractions at 5:30 a.m. My water broke at 4 p.m. And my daughter Saga came at 10:30 p.m. You do the math.
I was in labor for technically 27 hours. I got to the hospital at 7 a.m. November the 11th, and then I gave birth to Ryu at 7:15 a.m. November the 12th. But when people say that, I was in labor for 30 hours, you're like, oh my God, that sounds terrible. It's not like that at all. In essence, I started to dilate, so I was 1 centimeter dilated at the top of 24. And in that time, I ate great food, I danced, I slept a bunch, I took showers. So the time that it actually became painful was midnight and on. But like I mentioned, at midnight when it became whoa, this is some real, that's when I got the epidural. So yeah, 24 hours, but it's not what you think. I think, unless you thought that it was exactly that it's what you think.
What kept me focused during my labor was my partner, Max. I originally had a cross that I was holding to focus my pressure and pain on. Forget that, man. And I just focused on Max. In the contractions, my eyes were closed, but when they weren't, I was open and staring and dancing. And yeah, Max kept me focused.
In labor, this is gonna sound really crazy, but when the nurse was prepping me for the labor team to come in, she said, basically what you're gonna do is an ab workout. She's like, do you think you have strong abs? Anybody who knows me knows that I don't work out nothing else other than my abs. And I only do the exact same workout. It's called 8 Minutes of Abs on YouTube. So as soon as she said that, I just heard the voice of the trainer and the music in my head. And the entire time that I was pushing, I was just replaying that video in my head. And that's what I focused on.
Well, it was just me, Max, and Saga. We were on the countryside with no one, absolutely no one, which was a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is we just get to be in our little bubble. The flip side of that is we didn't know anything. I thought I was breastfeeding properly, but her latch, she didn't like a deep latch. You're supposed to give them a deep latch. She hated it. She would be like, so by 48 hours, the first was great, but by that 48 hour, it was just like downhill, screaming baby. And we thought we broke her. So yeah, the beginning of the nightmare started then, and it ended at the end of the 4th trimester.
After I gave birth, the next 36 hours we spent in the hospital, and it literally felt like the Ghosts of Christmas Past, the Christmas Carol movie. Like, you just kept getting visited by people over and over again. Like, it was like a nonstop revolving door of an ear specialist and an eye specialist and a vaccine specialist and a blood specialist and a lactation nurse and a lactation junior nurse and a lactation senior nurse. It was so many people came to visit. It was great because you got a lot of assurance and a lot of education very early on. And, a swaddling expert came in to teach us how to swaddle the baby. There was a lot happening, but at around the 24-hour mark, I got really exhausted just of the interruptions. And on top of that, too, you kind of just want to be, alone with your baby. So I called my mom. And I told her all the people that we had seen so far. And I said, we're still waiting for another pediatrician and some other expert who were taking a long time. And my mom was like, give it a little bit. So we did. We ate lunch. And afterwards, she's like, okay, have they come yet? I said, no. She said, you're going to go to the front desk, pack your bag, put your outfit on, and tell them that you're Llama. I said, what's Llama? She said, leaving against medical advice. And we did that. We basically packed up Ryu and packed up our bag, and we went to the front, and they're like, what, Mrs. Brady, what's going on? I'm like, oh, we're leaving now. We're going Llama. And then everybody kind of like corralled to be like, well, you still have to. I'm like, my mom said I don't, and we're all good. Thank you so much. It's been a great time. And then I went home, and I can't even remember the next 24 hours after we got home, which I think is a good thing. I think it was pretty basic. We felt confident in the health of Ryu, and my mom was there, who of course I'm super confident in her abilities. So I feel like that's when I just got to relax, which is why I don't really remember much.
My advice to you, if you're planning on having a home birth, you have to have the utmost humble approach. I was well aware that anything could happen. There are risks associated with everything in life, not just the hospital and not just at home. A lot of people can have this idea that a home birth is a risk to yourself and your baby. A hospital is a risk. I know women who have had injuries, who have lost babies, and who have lost lives in the hospital. So my advice is to have a very humble approach. Study as if your life depends on it, because it does, really. And with freedom comes huge responsibility. So I would just encourage you to read and understand, meditate, lots of meditation, and focus on your breath. And try to do this as soon as possible, as early as possible. Don't wait till you're pregnant to understand this stuff. I really wish I had known this before I was pregnant. I wish our society and our school system taught us this, but because they don't, there's a lot of work involved on your end if you want to pursue this.
The number one advice that I would give to somebody who's having a hospital birth is to have somebody in your corner who knows what's going on and knows the language. It's all too easy for the hospital staff who does this day in, day out, multiple times a day, to roll over you or to try to assume what you need because they've done this so many times, but they've never given birth to your baby and they've never gone through labor with you. They might forget that. So you need somebody in your corner who is reminding them that you are an individual and you have special considerations, and that all options have to be weighed before decisions are made. So I'm so grateful I had my mom. She gave us terms like LAMA, which is leaving against medical advice, which I'll talk about later, which is what we did at the end. And then she also told us, because essentially I was ready to push, but there was no labor team available, and we were waiting for like 15, 20 minutes. And my mom said, you're gonna call them right now and tell them that you're starting to push, and if they wanna be there to catch it, they better show up. See, I'm already catching stuff. Shout out to you, Mom, you trained me well. So yeah, I should just say as a caveat, I went to Kaiser Permanente, and with Kaiser you have rotating doctors, and the doctor I saw most of the time during my pregnancy was not the person who delivered my baby. And so as a result, there was all these opinions and all these people and people who were on shift work, and so I needed somebody consistent, and that was my mom for me. And I encourage you to have somebody like that for yourself.
The day I went into labor, I felt chill for the most part. I woke up, I did not wake my husband up, and I was just breathing. It was the first time I felt a contraction. I had no idea what contractions were, so I thought it was period cramps. And when they kept happening, I realized, oh, this could be the game time. But when I started to time the contractions, I realized it's not gonna happen today, and it didn't. So I felt chill, right? Was I chill? My love
On the day?
Yeah.
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 You were just in pain.
Yeah, I was in pain. Lots of pain. But it's a different kind of pain. It's like period cramp pain. You can do that, ladies, right?
The morning I went into labor, I felt thrill. I hate pregnancy with a passion. And I used to actually look back and wish that I was more upbeat about pregnancy, but now I'm really grateful that I was as honest as I was, because I know people who've had miserable pregnancies who have been like, thank you for sharing that. And I myself have definitely looked back and been like, it's nice that I had that honest perspective and I didn't try to delude myself or delude other people. So I hated pregnancy. So the morning of labor, I was like, yes, let's end this fucking shit show. Yes. I will say this kind of worked against me, because the second that I got into the car, I said to myself, the next time you get into a car and the next time you see this home, this is gonna be over. You're gonna have a baby, it's gonna work out well, it's gonna work out fine, but the next time that you're back here, just know that pregnancy will be done. And we'll talk about that. That mindset, I think, actually worked to my detriment.
A beautiful memory from giving birth was when I asked the birthing team to leave my bedroom. That's where I was in the birthing pool, and just being able to have my contractions with my husband, I felt a lot more comfortable. I felt a lot more at ease, and I felt a lot more free, which because of that feeling, I was able to birth my daughter into the world a lot quicker and safely. A high point of home birth was dancing my baby down with my husband. In the middle of contractions, I was able to dance, and thankfully I have an amazing partner, and he was playing my birthing playlist from Spotify, and we were dancing. So in between contractions, I was like,
A high point of hospital birth, my husband got to cut the cord, got to see the baby born. He was there to cheer me on. I felt cared for. There was tons of people in the room, which some people don't like that chaoticness. I felt cared for and I felt held, and everybody was cheering at once. And if you listen back to the audio from it, you could just hear, it just felt like a pep rally, and I liked that. But if I'm really honest, not hallmark high point of hospital birth was the epidural. Ugh. I lived for the epidural. I loved everything about it. I don't even remember the pain of it going in, because by the time I got the epidural was midnight, and I was just so over breathing through the contractions. And so I'm like, give me the epidural, I'm done. I'm tired, I wanna go to sleep. They gave it to me. I don't remember what it felt like. I just remember that afterwards, I was walking on sunshine. I went to sleep, I woke up, I was shivery. The nurse checked me, it was time to push. I pushed, I felt pressure, I felt present, I didn't feel pain. I could hear everything and I could feel the feels. And when they put my daughter on my chest, I didn't feel like I was out of it or loopy. I felt completely there and completely painless. My placenta slipped out. I didn't even know. I didn't know what was going on down there. And then best of all, they said things like, oh, you may have trouble walking afterwards. I could walk right away. And they said, oh, you may have trouble, taking a number 2 or a bowel movement. I had no trouble at all. It was like literally just the perfect drug. My body just, me and the epidural, we just go together.
The low point of my home birth was thinking to myself after 3 hours of contractions, like, why, Maya, why did you decide to have a home birth? As if I could escape the pain somewhere else. I was just asking myself why, and I was a bit afraid, but I knew that was a distraction, so I had to focus. But I would say that was a low point of allowing my thoughts to get away. Like, what do you mean? You can't do anything, you're here.
A low point of hospital birth was the decision that I was asked to make, and it was actually the decision that I made, if I take responsibility for myself. So in essence, what happened is I had my induction because I was late by 10 days. So I had an induced labor scheduled for 6 p.m. on Wednesday, but I went into labor naturally at 6 a.m. on Wednesday. So I thought I was further along in my dilation than I was. So I went to the hospital and they informed me I was actually only 1 centimeter dilated. Most hospitals only admit you at around 3 centimeters dilated, but they said because you already have an appointment to come here at 6 p.m., you might as well just stay. That was one doctor's opinion. At around 1 p.m., another doctor comes in and I was dancing at this time. I wasn't in that much pain. I was chilling. Me and Jared were just kind of vibing. So she comes in, we're playing music, I'm dancing. She looks at me and she's like, can I check your cervix? And she checked and she's like, your labor's not really progressing, so you have a choice right now. You can either go home and labor there, or you can start your induction early so we can get this thing popping. Because I told myself I'm not going back home without a baby and I'm not going back home unless I'm not pregnant, I chose to get induced, even though I really didn't have to. I should have just waited and let my body do it naturally, because I ended up developing a minor infection and a fever because of one of the techniques they use, which is the balloon Foley technique. So by 8 p.m. that night, if you watch my birth video, you'll see what I went through, but that was definitely the low point, and it was a pretty scary point.
If I was to have another child, I would likely have another home birth. I loved it. It was so beautiful. It was one of the most beautiful experiences of my life.
If I was to successfully have another child, I would choose to have a hospital birth again, and I would definitely choose to get the epidural again. I'd get it right now if they were offering. I don't have a reason. It was just such a great time.
It was actually the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced. I think you always feel distressed when you're seeing your partner in so much agony and so much pain. But when you tap into that spiritual connection with your partner when she's going through the contraction, and you can see that she is on it and that she's safe, you will feel safe too. And me and Maya, we were dancing, we were laughing, we were expressing each other how much we loved each other, and just sparking that what's it called, oxytocin. So we were sparking that natural oxytocin together, being all sexy and cute together. It was really beautiful.
Okay, the birthing experience from my perspective. Now, I've heard this a lot of times of people being like, it's gonna be magical, it's gonna be great, it's gonna be the most incredible experience in your life. And that is an understatement. It was wild, like wild. Straight instincts kick in. I describe it as like, when you're really, really focused on something, or you're in that flow where everything kind of gets tunnel vision and nothing else around you matters. I promise you, there was like 5 people, nurses, doctors in the room at the time, and the only person I could see was Shan and this baby coming out. I came into it with all these worries of like, how do I encourage? And then you see all the things on the TV where the wife is grabbing your hand and breaking the man's hand and yelling and going crazy. And so I was just like, how do I support Shan in this moment? And I was kind of nervous because I didn't know how I would be able to do that. But when you're in it, you're just there. I just remember putting my forehead on top of Shan's head and just like talking to her in her ear and just telling her, baby, you got this, push, push. And here's a little keynote not keynote, but here's a little advice for any men out there that they don't tell you. So I'm sitting there, I'm encouraging Shan, I'm holding her hand, I'm rubbing her head, and I'm just like, trying to just be a part of this process. And I look down and I see Ryu's head come out. Now, what they didn't tell me was that the baby's skull, it shifts. So when the doctor was getting the baby out, she was like grabbing on the head, and the head came out like a cone. So in my mind, I was like, don't let Shan see this. This woman just killed our baby, and I'm freaking out. I wish they would have told me that, because my heart dropped into my stomach and I was just like mind blown. Now, I don't know if Shan's gonna put this part in there. So we're in the moment, we're going, she's pushing, the baby finally comes out, and like everything settles. The whole room got quiet, and it was just Shan and I could hear her breath. And the doctor was like, don't look down, don't look down, don't look down. And I'm like, why am I not looking down? So of course, what do you do when the doctor says don't look down? I look down, and Shan's placenta fell on the floor. So there was blood all over, and I don't want to scare anybody, but there was blood all over the ground, all over the walls. There's like feet marks from the doctors walking around. I look down, there's blood on my shoes. It was a blood scene. But the crazy thing about it, none of that blood affected me. The first thing that mattered was like, is Shan okay? Is this like, and then she was like, no, normally the placenta would have came out later and we would have put it in a container so that you wouldn't have seen all that blood. But I was like, okay, if Shan's fine, Ryu's fine, who cares? That's all that matters. But it was a wild experience. I can't describe it. I'm sure Shan does a great job in this video, but it was amazing. I never felt so, it was just the instincts. It just felt so, what's the word that I'm looking for? I'm trying to find it. What's the word? Well, it was wild and it was beautiful and I loved it. It was crazy. It was magical.
That said, make sure to subscribe, make sure to like the video, make sure to click the bell notification, make sure to share the video with anybody that you think could use the video, and make sure to comment in the video. We really look at these comments a lot. We're always responding to them, and it tells us what you want more of, if you like this, that type of stuff. That's one of the best ways to get your questions answered.